Hi, I'm Steve.
I'm Shanika, and we're the Empty Nesters.
We're the real life braided bunch. We went from this,
To this,
and now we're here to share our experiences with you. Click the link in our bio to check out our YouTube page for relationship and parenting tips.
see you soon.
Yeah. What's up, y'all, man? We got a great show for y'all today. Our topic this week is one that we definitely did not agree on raising our children. And so, once again, y'all, the empty nesters, we choose these topics because we know that this is a real battle for someone somewhere, because it was a real battle for us. And so we want to share with you how it is we navigated that battle, the effects of what those decisions were, and hopefully you can draw from that experience that you may, you know, better navigate that yourself. Now, what is this topic? What is this so interesting topic? I feel like is very, very interesting. It is to spank or not to spank. To spank or not to spank. If you're in favor of spanking, raise your hand. Oh, okay. To spank or not to spank.
Now, when I look back, but when I was going through it,
no. So what you're saying is, now for y'all on the radio who couldn't see, I had my hand up, she had her hand down.
Yeah.
She did not believe in corporal punishment at all. I don't care how egregious the offense was. Nothing
I did what was done to me.
Getting sent out to the woodshed. In hindsight, tell your side. Tell your side.
Does it even
to spank
matter?
Or not to
Yeah,
spank?
to
Go
spank
ahead.
or not
Go
to
ahead.
spank.
I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna let you talk to the people, man. Talk to them. Tell them how you feel and why you feel how you feel.
It's like borderline, not abuse, but spanking. Why you can't just talk to them and let them know what they did wrong, and versus just going out straight up whooping. I want to say, I want to cuss, but I don't know.
Okay.
I don't recall getting too many spankings. I don't. Now, if you just doing something, over and over, well, we ain't gonna say that. If you do it one time, you need to know not to do it the second time.
You know I was there now. I'm listening to you. Oh, don't tell your story.
But I was tried and tried many times.
Okay.
And I didn't, do the necessary. Well, I won't even say necessary. I just didn't do no spanking.
Okay.
I didn't reprimand in a harsh way.
Okay.
They turned out pretty good to me.
Okay.
Now kids gonna be kids and they gonna do things.
Okay.
I mean, I remember I was doing things too.
Hey.
But
you know your truth. This is what this is about. It's about your truth from your perspective and my truth from mine.
Now, looking back.
You're looking back, what? So you're saying that's how you felt when you was in it?
Yeah.
For the record, your answer is when you were parenting, you didn't believe in spanking.
I didn't believe in spanking.
And now in hindsight, you saying you do.
Well, I guess now because I'm seeing my grandkids. And I'm like, no, we can't do that. Like, if one get in trouble, I think all of them need to be in trouble. So they won't do it again. So if you see somebody doing something wrong, go on and tap that. Go on and get the spanking. Because the other ones is watching. Because if you don't spank that one when he doing something wrong, then the other one's going to be like, oh, well, he ain't getting in trouble or they ain't getting in trouble, so I'm going to do it too. Right? So if you going on and spank that behind and they watching, they be like, okay, no, I ain't going to do that. Because I know I'm going to get a spanking.
Now, that's how you feel now.
That's how I feel now. About
that's grandma.
That's grandma. Kind of backwards, but that's what it is.
Oh my
And
God.
I don't know, it's because I don't have I got a low tolerance in my older years.
Ah, okay. I mean, that's understandable.
So
So for me, um, you know, of course, I definitely agree with you in that. If I heard you right, you didn't believe in spanking because you didn't get spanked. Is that what I heard you
I
say?
got very few spankings. I can't remember.
So you didn't.
I can't
So it
count.
wasn't nothing that you know. So I guess my point I'm making is we got beat. Say, we got beat like Kunta. You know, nah, I'm just joking. But yeah, I got my fair share, and it of course made me uh, proponent of actually spanking. But what I learned, because that's what this is about. This is about hindsight and what you learn from what you go through. Uh, I learned that not everything that kids do warrant that type of punishment, and you know, it's a communication is a more important piece than that. You just said it, and so I'm agreeing with that point that you made too. Um, the thing that I always that confused me so much about you know getting spanked as a kid was we were always told don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. If you didn't follow the command, then of course that's when you potentially got spanked, right? But there was never any explanation
Of
because
why.
you didn't have to explain to children. It's because I say so. And that's what I grew up in. I grew up in the because I say so era. And if your parents or an elder or an adult told you something, you did it because they said so. And you weren't allowed to ask questions or talk back or, I can remember, I told you how much my grandmother influenced me, how much, love she showed me in her raising me and all that I've learned from her. But she the same person that gave me instruction one day and I never forget it. She gave me instruction one day, and she gave me instruction simultaneously while she was on the telephone talking. And instead of me following the instruction, and outright, I had a question about the instruction, and so I had to get my question through her conversation on the phone, and I was not satisfied until I got my conversation through to her, my question through to her. And I knew that I had got my question through to her when she gave me the answer.
And what was the answer?
The answer was clear. It was a backhand. The answer was clear. It was shut up and go do what I said do. And that's what I grew up in. And so, the difference, like she being the mother figure, she gave me just as much love as discipline. I grant her, but she gave me more love than discipline. And it's the one thing about my parenting that I would change if I could is, but see, being a boy, being a man growing up in those times, there was no such thing as affection. There was no such thing as emotion. There was no such thing as feelings. It was, you a boy, you're going to be a man, suck it up. And that's what we were taught. And that's how I was raised.
So, all kids are different. Some kids need to be spanked, and some kids you can talk to and they understand, and they won't do it again. Some kids, you say don't do it, you giving them a chance. You're going to give them a chance. You tell them not to do it. But they go and do it again. Okay, you need to spank them. Because you're not listening.
Okay.
So, all kids, but all while you doing that, communicate with them. Telling them why. Because they don't know, kids do stuff.
Right.
And sometimes they just be doing it to see if they can get away with it.
Kids are curious.
So, they're curious. So you just have to, I guess, be able to decipher, okay, so let's talk about this and let me tell you why you can't be doing this. And that's boy or girl. It's the communication.
Communication is very important in parenting.
You
Being
just
able to have that.
Yeah, you can't just be spanking a kid, just spanking them. I told you not to do that. I told you.
Well, that's
and then
what
it ain't that. Well, why?
Let's be clear. That's what I got.
Well, why? What,
And you can ask why.
What's gonna happen?
You can
Why?
ask
And
why.
these
Because I
kids-
said so.
These kids these days, why?
Because I
Well,
said
why?
so.
Why?
Yeah, these kids these days couldn't have made it in my day.
Why?
At all. At all.
It's always why.
Yeah.
Because I said so. No, explain to me why. Well, why did you say so? Because this is going to happen if you do this, and so we don't want this to happen. So we want you to be safe and not do it. You got to give them a reason. Help them understand. That's my take on that one.
So take on that one. All right, let's dive back in. Let's dive back into our topic, babe. So we were talking about to spank,
or not to spank,
right? And I've identified. All this is hindsight from my experience, right? And so, of course, while I was going through it, I definitely did not hesitate to lay down the hammer when I thought it was necessary. I feel like it was helpful. It was useful in my parenting. My sons today actually thank me for the firm hand and direction that I, put in their lives. They know, that their father genuinely loved them and was only doing what he thought was best to raise them in the best way that I could. Because we've had those conversations. As adults, we've had those conversations. Because, as I said, there's so much I would change if I could. I would have been so much more loving. I would have been so much more of a communicator. I would have made sure that I expressed to them, more, how important they are to me. And so if there's any takeaway from it, add that to it. I'm not telling you not to be a disciplinarian. However, I do believe I've identified a way to have to lessen, even having to give that type of discipline. And it's by simply doing the crucial work of in the beginning stage, the first 3 to 5 years of development, instilling in the child what it is, the character traits that are okay and that are not okay. Like, you have to do that work in that moment when that child is in that young developmental age. And if you do, it'll avoid you from having to do it later. So what's an example of what I'm saying? Okay, you got a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, right? He's throwing a temper tantrum in the middle of the mall because he wants a toy that you guys just walked out of the store that he saw. Well, in that moment, you're just so embarrassed and you just don't want to deal with it. And so I'm going to give him some candy to make him be quiet. What did I just teach him? I just taught him that the temper tantrum was going to get you candy, right? No, in that moment, I have to find a way in. If it's not through spanking, if it's through communication, well, I'm not saying that you have to spank. You may very well be able to address that issue in that moment with your child, because what level of communication do you have? If you think back, I said it. Once the child begins to communicate with you through hand, sign language, whatever the case,
right.
They're showing you that they're understanding. Well, then you can start to develop that child. You can start to teach. You can create that language that you and that child speak, and you guys understand each other.
Right.
And it's in that stage that if you, in those moments, correct that behavior
at that time,
I don't think it will be required when they get older. But in those years, you allow them to have tantrums. You allow them to do things, and instead of you finding a way to break that or get that out of them, you allow them to win in that moment. And so now they feel like it's okay for me to behave like this. Keep in mind, if you have a child, and I see it all the time, especially in my last role, these young parents will have these young children, 2 years old, 3 years old, whatever the case, throwing tantrums and fighting their parent. They're fighting, they're literally fighting, like they're fighting the parent, and the parent is trying to get them to stop, and they're doing whatever they can. But you got to realize, in this child's mind, they're actually fighting. So now you have to teach this child that that's not okay. I'm not telling you to spank. I'm telling you to do what you got to do in that moment to teach that child that it's not okay. Now, if you have to spank, I'm not going to say it don't work. And I'll go so far as to say is a good spanking early will avoid you from having to ever spank again.
That's true.
I,
What if all you said is all good and true, but what if when they still get in that older age and they try it again?
well, I feel like everything should be met where it is. What do I mean by that? Not everything that I, felt like, not everything.
So
that
at what
God,
age would you stop spanking?
I say by middle school, it's time. It's time to put that down because they're big enough. They understand communication. If they ain't got it by now, they're not gonna get it. Through elementary school, it's still impressionable.
Learning.
So I mean, you can still cuss them. Now, one of my sons, our sons, as you know, he got it by the third grade. By second, third grade, he hadn't had a spanking since. Because he figured it out, like, nah, my dad ain't gonna play that. Let me go on.
Yeah.
Now, however, his little brother, he chose to push the envelope many times, right? But by middle school, like,
Did
you know what, dude?
Though?
I mean, he
Baby boy.
I ain't talking about baby boy, middle boy.
Middle boy.
Baby boy, he probably got one or two his whole life. Cause see, by the time baby boy came along, he had two older brothers that gave him the game. Mm-hmm. So he knew what not. He knew the rules. He never stepped out of bounds. He did maybe twice his whole life, and when he did, he got the business. He can tell you, but I just believe that if you do the developmental work earlier on, you don't have to do so much later.
That's true.
And so I'm being honest in that I didn't do the real developmental work early. So by the time they did hit 5, 6, 7, now the work is harder. Mm-hmm. Because in the first 5 years, I didn't work as hard as was necessary in meeting all of those character or behavioral, traits that they were adapting in those years that I could have molded earlier. Yeah. And I just believe in hindsight that if you take that head on now, in those earlier years, it will lessen what you need to do in the later years. I'll go so far as to say I got proof. Because I had another opportunity to do it with my grandson. My grandson, and he tried it early with me. He tried it. What was he, 1?
Yeah, he was about 1.
He was about 1, and like, yeah, he was strong. Boy, he was strong-willed, strong-minded, and
almost.
So let me go and just share the story with you. I'll share the story. This is full transparency.
Yeah.
He was 1. We're talking about a 1-year-old, right? And the issue was, it was bedtime, and he did not want to give up his tablet, right? Am I remembering the story correct?
Yeah.
He didn't want to give up his tablet. And so I told him, politely, kind of. Now, at this time, he hadn't spent much time with us alone. Mm-hmm. He was still young. He had spent a little time with us alone. But he had not spent much time with us alone away from his parents. Right. And so it was time to go to bed, and it was time to up the tablet, right? Right?
It's time to go to bed.
He wasn't hearing it. He wasn't having it. He didn't agree with that. And he strongly let me know that he disagreed with that. And so, of course, early in the exchange, I tried communicating with him verbally. And it didn't work. And he even went so far as to look at me, and I want to say he growled at me or something to that effect, like you finna whoop
yeah,
me.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
He get that
Yeah, the boy,
growling.
he was see everybody. I'm not making this up. I'm telling what this baby did to me behind his tablet. Now, as an old school parent, I'm not gonna say I blacked out on him because I didn't want to hurt him, but he did find himself hung upside down by one leg for a few seconds and catching a few, to the thigh area to kind of get his attention. And it was, it was extreme quick reaction. So he was not ready. And in that moment, I do believe he saw his life flash before his little 1 year eyes.
It wasn't that harsh.
Hey,
I mean,
in
it was
his
probably
mind,
harsh to him, but it
think
wasn't
about
that
it.
harsh.
Think about what I'm saying.
Yeah, because he was
Now,
young.
I got a witness sitting right next to me. He was 1.
He was
He's
about 1.
4 today. We haven't had an issue since. Not one. And even when he thinks he's in one of those moods, all I have to do is look at him and ask him, what's the issue?
The subject real quick.
And, hey, there is none, Poppy.
He
How was your day?
it.
I love you, Poppy. Hey, I love you too, son. And the difference is this. He got the same amount of love in that moment as he did, discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was followed by affection and love and conversation of me talking to him. This
And
baby,
and
understanding and looking at him and letting him know how much he means to me, how much I love him, and why that was unacceptable. And he's 4 now. And I have not had to lift a finger to him since.
All about Poppy.
He loves his Poppy. You know what? I flood my.
He called me saying, "Well, Poppy, well you should have called him yourself. Why are you calling me?"
Hey man, listen. I lived long enough, to know that you're supposed to learn from what you go through in life.
Yeah.
I made a lot of mistakes parenting. I really want to share this so that someone that's in that position now can really draw from this, and it'll help you, through these situations now. And
Yeah. I don't even know.
What, man?
I don't know.
Speak your piece.
I mean, spanking is okay.
I mean, you've been there throughout all of this, so you've had your lessons in this as well.
I have. And if I would have got on got on them girls a little bit more.
You feel like that in hindsight?
Yeah.
What do you think the difference would have been?
So just like I did with my grandkids, or doing with my grandkids, because if one get it, all of them need to get it. So therefore, they won't try it.
Okay.
They won't try it. So when one did it back then, I just got on that one. I should have got on all of them.
Why you getting on all of them?
Because they know what that one was doing or did, and they didn't say nothing.
Oh, okay. You need informers. If you're not informing, you're the conspiracy.
It's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. Okay, so she got away with it. Okay.
My turn.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That wouldn't have happened.
All right, man. We're going to let that digest for a minute, y'all. All right, y'all, man. It's the Empty Nesters, man. We've been in here with y'all, man. It's been a good hour.
It's been a good hour.
We're going to wrap this thing up, man. In closing, let me say for the record, my answer is that, discipline should be in whatever form that the parent believes it should be in, because it's your child.
That's
you're the parent. You're the one responsible for how you develop this young person. And so I'm not trying to judge anyone. I'm not trying to tell anyone how to raise their children. We all parent the best way we know how. But I just, based on my experiences, I believe that if you meet those behavior, character flaws early, where they are, and do whatever is necessary for you to get the message clearly across to the child that this is unacceptable. Well, then, the earlier that you do that, the more effective you're going to be as the years go on with being able to continue to communicate and put influence into the child without having to resort to such a drastic measure because the child has gotten out of control.
Right.
If you don't do that work early and you allow that child to get out of control early, that behavior, it doesn't just go away. It doesn't get better as they get older. You have to nip that in the bud. If this child has a behavior, and if your child is 1, 2, or 3, I'm sorry, temper tantrums are behavior problems. If they're throwing temper tantrums regularly to get their way and you're allowing it to happen, well, then you're allowing that behavior to set in. If they're doing things that you feel, they shouldn't do, as a child at that age, you should, if you're giving them instruction and they're not listening, you need to find a way to make them listen to the instruction. Again, I'm not telling you to spank the child, but I do know that, a firm hand will definitely get you the attention needed in order to, give instruction and have it listened to. When listening is not an option, they tend to listen, because I put it that way. But when you make listening an option, they may choose to listen, they may choose not to. But when listening is not an option and they understand that it's not an option, they're going to listen. It's up to you to make them understand that. However it is that you see fit to do that. All right? Now, me, I'm definitely pro getting that. But to each of you, man, best wishes to you and your children on this journey to making them beautiful, responsible adults.
Yeah, and let's motivate our children to do right, to do better. We gotta motivate them too. When we communicate with them, we need to motivate them as well.
Every ride to school was a lecture.
Yes.
Well, I say lecture, but it was a conversation. It was a conversation about, how you, want this young person to develop. It was a conversation about the importance of being focused in class. It was a conversation about the importance of your appearance and the image that you project once you go. You want to sag because the rest of the school is sagging.
And always encourage them as well. And also, congratulate them. When they're doing well.
What's rewarded will be redeemed.
Yes. Yeah.
So definitely. So listen, man. This is the Empty Nesters, y'all.
The Empty Nesters.
Hi, I'm Steve.
I'm Nika.
We're the Empty Nesters, man. We want to thank you guys for supporting us. Remember, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys again next week on the Empty Nesters.